You're listening to the Vikes Verified podcast. Hello, Vikings Nation. This is the Vikes Verified podcast, back for episode 94. We're back in Cub Studios out here in Stillwater, presented by Pulltab Sports. What a great time to be a Vikings fan. Minnesota starts the season 1-0. Fired up to see a win, Matt. Obviously, it wasn't the most difficult opponent to get past in the New York Giants, and they had their mishaps. But either way, the Vikings start 1-0, exactly what we were looking for, headed into a tough stretch at home. How fired up were you to get the first one?
Oh, it feels great to get the first one under the belt. We had talked about this. It was somewhat of a must-win, even though it being week one. With the gauntlet of a schedule that we have up in front of us, that was one that we had to get, and to not have it be a one-score game was a very refreshing feeling. That is the largest margin of victory since 2019, and it definitely felt a little bit odd having the game go that way. But, again, if we can keep performances up like this, I think this team is going to surprise a lot of people. I think we're going to be in a lot of games, and the nice thing is that we're going to come into a lot of these matchups as an underdog. So we've got not as much to lose, but a lot to gain. And the first game was a great step towards being competitive this season.
You're right. We take care of business 28-6. New York Giants cannot get in the end zone one time. MetLife Stadium was ringing with boos to the point where Jonathan Grenard even came out and said he almost felt bad for Daniel Jones and the Giants with the way that their home crowd was receiving them after that performance. Let's highlight a few great performances in this game. But first and foremost, let's talk about the newest news in Vikings country, which is Harrison Phillips signing a 2-year extension, $19 million deal, $13 million guaranteed. I thought this was great value for Phillips, and after a week one performance like that, I think it was only right for us to lock him up through 2026.
Yeah, this just adds to the list of extensions that this front office has been able to lock down. And again, this, like you said, seems like a steal. $6.5 million average per year. Locks them down. The salary cap is always going to go up. The price for these guys are always going to go up, especially once they hit the open market. So to lock down a guy like Phillips, who's rock solid in the locker room and on the field, is just such a smart move. He has really elevated his game under Flores, and obviously what we saw in week one, he was dominant, disruptive, and he obviously looks like he's still got plenty of good years left under for him to provide for this defense. So very happy with what this front office was able to do and get him at a great contract number, and it just keeps continuing that trend of retooling this roster and reshaping the contracts as we should. So very happy to see him stick around in purple and gold.
And just getting good value while doing it. Exactly. So fun to see these extensions and what these guys would cost a year or two from now if we didn't get it done. So grade A move from the front office. A lot of respect to Rob and Kwesi.
The new segment here, the Vikes Verified Vent Line. It's not too much to vent about after a big win in New York, but we want to open it up to the fans and be able to answer some questions on this past game. So I'm going to introduce you to Chase. Chase, how you doing today, and where are you calling in from?
Oh, doing well, guys. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for having me on. Calling in from Destin, Florida.
Oh, I love it.
Originally from Atlanta, but came down to the beach and calling in for the Vikings.
Let's go. All right, what's on your mind? We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, the biggest question I've been kind of asking myself, and after watching the game, is obviously the Giants not a great team. Pretty obvious. Daniel Jones' contract's not good. Saquon Barkley walks in free agency, so. Just curious, kind of what does this win mean for the Vikings? Was this a great performance by the Vikings? Was it the Giants being the Giants? How much can we really take away from this?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And to answer that, I think it's a little of both. I do think it's a good win for the Vikings, but again, this is against one of the bottom 5 teams in the league. No denying the issues that Daniel Jones had. Like you said, for the contract number that he is not living up even close to that. And it's just kind of ironic that the whole reason he got that contract, or a big reason, was that playoff game against us 2 years ago. To now see that kind of come full circle and him rain down the boos in MetLife. He had a rough day again, but I think, for us, it was kind of a must-win. So regardless of if it wasn't maybe against the best talent, it's not only a great confidence booster, but it was one that we had to get, especially with these next 2 opponents coming up in the 49ers and Texans. And for us to be able to go and get that win is just going to give us confidence, and at least is the opposite of last year where we lost that opener to Tampa Bay. And that game had a very similar feeling when C.J. Ham fumbled, in terms of kind of that coming back and rearing its head. I was glad that we were able to kind of negate that and then coast to a W after that. Just felt like one of the easier wins that we've had, and it technically was. It was the largest margin of victory since 2019.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off that, Matt, and I'll go ahead and say, yes, it was a confidence builder. I think a lot of Vikings fans are hesitant right now because of the opponent to say if we're good or not, and this weekend is going to be the real test with San Francisco. We all know that. But I just look at it as a great opportunity to play a weaker opponent to kind of get your season off on the right note. We know very well what it's like to start 0-1, 0-2, trying to dig your way out of that hole. It's nice to just go out and get a little bit of insurance on the road here in New York. And I think the thing about good teams is good teams put away teams with less talent. And mediocre teams let teams with less talent hang around. We didn't let them hang around, so I think that's a good sign for us moving forward.
And Chase, I'll follow up with just one other question for you. Over the next 2 weeks, we have some tough opponents in the 49ers and Texans, but both being at home. If you had to pick one out of the two, which game or team do you feel better beating?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I haven't, given a ton of thought to, but I think personally right now I've got to stick with the 49ers. We've got some momentum coming off of the last game. I thought it was electric to see, Brian Flores' defense really come to life with some of the guys that he really wanted to bring in, right? The versatility, the different play calling. So that was good to see. So, we've got that momentum, and, we beat the 49ers last year with, Kirk Cousins, who I was kind of iffy on, but, without Justin Jefferson. So that gives us some good film to go back to and kind of work off of. And, I didn't find their win, last night too impressive either against the Jets.
Yeah.
I thought the Jets played pretty poorly. So I would say that. I mean, the Texans are young, frisky. They played a tough opponent who I think in the Colts, and I think there's going to be some holes to exploit here for the 49ers based off of the past and then what we've got rolling in, after this past Sunday.
Definitely, and can't understate the possibility that Christian McCaffrey could also be out on Sunday. So things are, lining up in our favor, it seems, in the first 4 weeks with between McCaffrey potentially being out and Jordan Love definitely on the mend in terms of our game coming in week 4. So I would agree with you. I think 49ers, like you said, we beat them last year. I think we match up with them a little bit better, and them coming off a W back into our place, I think lines us up in a good spot. So very happy to see, or very excited to see what we look like this weekend, as I think it'll be more of a true litmus test. But again, appreciate you coming on, Chase, and we'd love to have you call in down the line.
100%, y'all. Thanks for having me on. Big fan.
Have a good one. Stay solid down there in Florida.
Yes, sir.
There you go. Y'all too.
All right. Next, we're going to be bringing in Blake from Crystal, Minnesota. Blake, are you there?
I'm here, fellas. How we doing?
What's going on,
Doing
Mr.
great.
Hartman?
Lay it on us. What do you got?
Just a little question about the O-line. Obviously, the offensive line did what they had to do, gave Sam Darnold the time he needed to, get the ball out, make some plays for the team, as well as Aaron Jones had a great day for us as well. We were running the ball, Ty Chandler a bit. But one surprising thing, I know I don't pay too much attention to the PFF grades, but seeing Christian Darrisaw after delivering a no-hitter, being our third highest O-lineman, when obviously you expect he's our best O-lineman, most trustworthy O-lineman, but then seeing guys like Brian O'Neill and Blake Brandel having great games, it's something we're not used to here in Minnesota as of late, to have an O-line like this. But what were you guys' thoughts on that? After Darrisaw, I thought he had a phenomenal game.
Oh, he was lights out. I just think I was just reading through their pressures, and we talked about how good their edge rushers were with Brian Burns, Thibodeau, and obviously Dexter in the middle. They combined for one QB hit on Sunday. So you talk about protecting Darnold, giving him some confidence in his first game. They did just that. And Ed Ingram is the guy we talk about, allowed 6 pressures in the game, but he's going up against one of the best defensive tackles in the league there. So I'm going to give him a little bit of grace. The interesting thing about PFF grading and the scale is that the ones doing the grading don't always know the assignment of the player, especially on run blocking plays. Like, as a former offensive lineman, you might be trying to work to the second level on a certain play or seal the backside. PFF doesn't necessarily know what your scheme is, so I think that's where some of the inconsistency in grading comes in. But I think just on tape, Brandel played such a clean game. And I was so fired up to see that because he was a guy that we extended before he even was a starter. And it was the same thing we did with Josh Metellus, getting ahead of the curve. They've seen how good these guys are in practice. They got a feeling that this is going to show up on Sunday. And in his first game as a full-time starter, he goes out and plays a game like that. So it's definitely encouraging. Still a little bit undersized in the middle, dealing with those bigger defensive tackles, but I can't remember a time that we've had 2 tackles this solid. Like, it is seriously probably the best tackle duo we've had on the Vikings in our entire lives.
Yeah, and, to echo your point, Blake, it definitely was caught my attention to not see Darrisaw with his PFF grade with such a solid game, but I think in all, that's a good problem to have. That speaks to the depth that this team and offensive staff has been able to create on the offensive line. I think Blake Brandel was a steal of a signing, and if he can keep this type of performance up, he's going to further cement that. The one guy I have my eyes on is Ed Ingram. Again, I think you're right, Nick. It was some tough competition against Dexter Lawrence, and our middle is a little undersized, but Ingram seems like the one to maybe be on the outs if there was somebody, and I think what I'm most interested to see is when Dalton Reisner gets healthy, if he provides a little bit of a push in terms of unseating him as a starter, because I think that was the one position throughout the offensive line that's been the most inconsistent. And I think if Reisner gets healthy, definitely could put a little bit of pressure on him. So that would be the one thing that I'm going to be watching. But overall, this offensive line has came a long ways. And how good does it feel to have a bookend tackles in O'Neal and Darrisaw?
It feels great. I want to add one more tidbit onto that, Blake, and kind of just looking at roster construction. When O'Connell won the Super Bowl in L.A., you look at their offensive line and kind of a similar makeup. They had Andrew Whitworth, left tackle, Rob Havenstein, right tackle, bookend guys. And then you look at the interior, Brian Allen, who is a fine center, and then you got David Edwards and Austin Corbett. So, I feel like they prioritize the edge, the tackles on the offensive line, and they want to get some value in the middle and not overspend at center and guard, and that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, it's definitely great to see when we can really make our money stretch, especially in these guys that kind of get overlooked, kind of have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, where they're going to come in there hungry, looking for a starting spot and looking to do something even more, kind of bounce back in their career. So it's great to finally have some of those in purple, hoping that Aaron Jones can just keep being a dog,
yes,
and Sam Darnold can keep just getting as much time as he needs to. Because, so far, so good. Great start for the season. Excited to see how we can play against a solid 49ers defense this coming week.
100%. I can't believe it. You look at Blake Brandel, 6'6", 320. Okay, how many guards are 6'6", 320?
Yeah.
A guy with size like that, I just can't emphasize enough how encouraging that is to see a guy in his first start just come take care of business like that. So appreciate you bringing up the trenches, though, Blake. It's a part of the game that moves both sides of the ball. So I'm excited to finally have an O-line that's got some continuity and has a lot of talent. And you're right about Aaron Jones. If he can keep on this pace, we are going to be dangerous.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you calling in. We'll have you in down the line. And like you said, very excited for this upcoming Sunday as we have a huge test at home against the 49ers. Let's transition here to a segment, our Duke Cannon Studs and Duds. Nick, start us off with some studs you saw from this game.
Well, the first stud is going to be Aaron Jones. And I've been saying after watching him one game, he is the tone setter of this offense. If this guy can rumble like this all season long, he is going to make Sam Darnold's job a hell of a lot easier. He is going to make our defense's job a lot easier, and he's going to help us win the time of possession in games, which is something that we've been calling for as Vikings fans for a few seasons now. Can we get a reliable run game on the ground? And him and Ty Chandler seem to be the tandem that can put that together. So Aaron Jones averaging almost 7 yards per touch in this game. He was over 100 yards all-purpose, 94 on the ground, and I believe 15 through the air. But what a refreshing debut. And at 29 years old, it's safe to say he's got a ton of juice left in the tank.
Yeah, and another guy that I thought stood out was Andrew Van Ginkel. This is an obvious one. First performance for the Vikings, and was able to get a sack, an interception, a touchdown, and 4 tackles. Just all over the field, was disruptive, was very versatile. You can see exactly why Brian Flores wanted to implement him on this defense, and just very excited to see what he can do throughout the season. I think the retooling that they've done on this defensive line is going to really change the game for Brian Flores on this defense. You could see how much easier it was getting home with 4 guys this year compared to last. I think that's where Brian Flores wants to be, allowed to drop back guys and only bring 4 or 5, but just constantly confuse the opposing quarterback. So to me, Andrew Van Ginkel couldn't have had a better first game as a Viking, and very excited to see his fit throughout the season on this defense. A couple other guys I'll give shout-outs to. Blake Brandel, great first game starting at guard for the Vikings, held his own, very high PFF grade. And then also Jalen Naylor scores a touchdown, doesn't have a ton of snaps, but he does score. And with Addison most likely being out on Sunday, his role is due to definitely elevate, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities for him to continue to make plays, as he's been one of the biggest risers on this roster this training camp.
Yeah, and how can we not highlight Sam Darnold as a stud as well? In his first start in purple, goes 19 of 24, 208 yards, 2 TDs and a pick. What I look at from this game is the efficiency. Only 5 incompletions. You talk about the interception, arm hit as he threw. Was probably going to take a shot to Jefferson on a double move, which we all want to see him take shots to Jefferson when he has to. But I thought he just moved the ball so well. He had command of the offense, and he was really benefiting from us being able to move the sticks on the ground. Like I said, so developing that repertoire with Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson early, hit Josh Oliver on a nice seam route. Obviously able to drop a dime there to Naylor as well for his second career touchdown. But Sam Darnold looked comfortable. He looked calm. And first and most of all, he looked confident. And I think that's one thing that Kevin's really trying to pump into him is confidence. If he can stay on top of his game and come into every week with a mindset to dominate, there's no reason why he can't succeed the whole year.
Yeah, and exactly what you said. I think instilling confidence in him is going to be very important, and seeing what he was able to do in the first game, I think, is going to do wonders for him throughout this first half and rest of the season. So excited that he was able to get off on a hot start. Just to finish on the studs, I think obviously this is a more obvious selection, but Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill continue to be stalwart tackles for this offensive line, and just having that protection, I think, goes a long ways for a guy like Sam Darnold. So very thankful to have those guys in purple and gold. Switching over to some duds, I'll start us off here with probably the most obvious one, and that's Ed Ingram. Allowed, I believe, 6 pressures just by Dexter Lawrence alone. Was just struggling to kind of stay in front of these guys. Again, he's somewhat a liability in the pass protection game. So there's a little bit left to be desired there, but again, I think he is a guy that has a lot of potential, but just hasn't been able to put it all together yet.
Yeah, and then we've got Johnny Munt on the list too, Matt. Do you care to explain what you saw from Johnny that ended him up on the duds list?
It's just we had to put a couple. I really couldn't figure out a lot with how the game went. Ed Ingram was the one that stood out the most. Johnny Munt, I just thought would have a bigger impact this first game. His ability,
he was wide open on the
correct
Jalen Naylor TD.
Correct,
could have been his.
Didn't get the touchdown. So again, this is born. I got to be nitpicky. You got to find guys who maybe were expected to play a little bit better and didn't. And I thought Johnny Munt did, a little bit underwhelming. And again, that's not all of his fault, but we did have to pick 3 guys for this, so you got to cut the line somewhere.
Yeah, and then some guys would have probably put CJ Ham on this after his early
Yeah,
fumble.
I probably should have put him on there.
If you look at CJ the rest of the game, clearing holes for Aaron Jones, you talk about a bounce back. It's unfortunate what happened. It was a great hit from the defender, popped it out, kind of gave us flashbacks, if you will, of previous seasons and early turnovers. But CJ held it down the rest of the game. So shout out to CJ for bouncing back from that and helping Aaron Jones get going on the ground.
The Vikes Verified podcast is sponsored by Drip Drop. This is the hottest electrolyte on the market. You need to stay hydrated with Drip Drop. It is fast, effective, and tasty hydration anywhere and anytime. It has 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of its competitors. This is really a game changer, and if you're looking to up your electrolyte game, go get yourself some Drip Drop today.
Let's touch on a few more game notes from this one. Patrick Jones comes up with 2 sacks. Is it safe to say that this rotation of Andrew Van Ginkel, Jonathan Grenard, Dallas Turner, and Patrick Jones might be one of the most underrated edge rushing arsenals in the entire league?
100%. I think that this group is going to open a lot of eyes in the NFL, and just having that flexibility to rotate 4 guys like that and either have all 4 of them on the field or 2 of the 4, just having the versatility and access to these guys is going to provide Brian Flores wonders in terms of his ability to really craft up different blitzes and packages that he can provide. And just seeing how furious that Dallas Turner is, and then you've got Grenard coming off the edge, Van Ginkel who's flying all around, and then Patrick Jones with 2 sacks. You really could pick out one every week to have a standout game, and I think you're going to see that throughout the season. There's going to be bits and pieces where guys are going to have bigger games, and sometimes they won't. It's just because we're so deep there. So losing Danielle Hunter was obviously super tough this past off season, but to then revamp this room and have those 4 guys still, I think it's a win in my book. And so far, the first game was a great test to what this defensive line can do throughout the season.
Yeah, not to mention we got a guy in Bo Richter chomping at the bit to get on that 53 and make a play himself. Very glad to have him on the practice squad. A couple other guys in the defensive interior. A guy in Jerry Tillery really showed up in this one. A couple times we're looking at each other during the game going, who's 99? Oh, it's Tillery again. Used to seeing Danielle Hunter in 99. It's a different guy physically, not the same physical profile, but he was playing with effort on Sunday, and excited to see what Tillery can do. He's got a lot of speed right there in the middle, getting in the backfield on multiple occasions. Him and Harrison Phillips really did a nice job, able to shut down Devin Singletary and their rushing attack. Let's talk about the old vet and Harrison Smith. What a nice job. Baiting that cover 2, little glance route right there at the goal line. Smith jumps in front of it, nabs his 35th career interception. There is nobody in the NFL that's active right now with more interceptions than Harrison Smith. How inspiring was that to see in year 13 from the vet?
I just love to see it, man. And he just continues to make plays. He's such a savvy player. You could see him reading Daniel Jones throughout that whole play. Terrible throw by Jones, but again, Harrison was there ready to make a play and knocks another one on his list of interceptions. So what he's been able to do, you really can't put a lot of words to. He's a Vikings Ring of Honor for sure, and hoping that he can, get the things that he's trying to achieve, whether that's getting to the playoffs and obviously winning a Super Bowl, whether we can do all those things. I want to get as much done as possible for him with the limited time left that we have. So for Vikings fans out there, enjoy it while we got it, because he's definitely on the back end of things, and he will go down as one of the all-time Viking defenders. So very happy to see him continue his stellar play. Another guy on defense that I was impressed by was Josh Metellus. Just continues. It's not really a surprise, but this safety group just flies all over the field between Smith, Cam Bynum, and Metellus, who's technically a safety but really plays all over the defense. So that group really has just been such a blessing for this defense, and I just love having the flexibility and versatility that all 3 provide.
Yeah, Metellus was unreal. That diving PBU early in the game. Metellus is actually listed as a 2 on our depth chart if anyone goes and looks at it, but the 3 defenders who led our team in snaps were Cam Bynum, Harrison Smith, and Josh Metellus. These guys are going to be on the field all season long. We play that nickel package, and Metellus can pretty much do anything in that nickel package, from blitzing to covering to man coverage on a back. I mean, the guy is just incredibly versatile, and it's crazy to see the leadership role that he's taken on so quickly. It seemed like right since he got that contract extension, he has just stepped up into a leadership role that cannot be denied. Now he's the question guy in the locker room. I don't know if you guys saw that segment from the Vikings today, but he's clearly very well liked and very well respected as a leader. We're going to need him all season long. Ivan Pace, another guy in this defense, playing with a ton of speed and aggression. They classify him as a pit bull on the team, like he's ready to just go sick somebody. The guy has crazy energy. Byron Murphy described him as psychotic at times. I mean, it's a guy you want playing inside backer, coming downhill, stuff in the run, being violent in the middle of the defense, and he's a tone setter for sure. What did you like from Pace in this game?
Pace just never stops. He has a motor that just keeps on going and going and going, and he plays like a madman. There's just... You get that guy in a certain space, and he's truly special on the field. Just his size does not deter him from doing what he wants, and you just see him fly around like a bullet out there. And he tossed Devin Singletary, I believe, or Eric Gray, one of the two, like a rag doll to the ground. Just seeing him fly around is truly special, and it's still to this day is shocking that he went undrafted. But kudos to our front office to be able to identify such a diamond in the rough and then have him do what he's been able to do has been just a blessing in disguise for this defense. So elite play from Ivan Pace. On the downside, I will say the one probably negative thing from this game outside of, the CJ Ham fumble was Jordan Addison injured his other ankle. This is now both ankles that he's sprained. He most likely would not play Sunday. How do you feel about a guy in Jalen Nailor and the next guys in Brandon Powell, Trent Sherfield, and Tristan Jackson being able to fill that void kind of in that wide receiver 2 spot?
Well, it's certainly a void, but for a guy that now has 2 sprained ankles, you got to sit him this week, in my opinion. I'd be shocked if they ran him out there. The goal is obviously, maybe we can gear him up for Houston and he plays there, but you could even miss 2 weeks with this type of deal. We want longevity for Addison. We want him to be healthy the second half of the season, and taking this seriously and getting him the proper recovery now is critical for him to be healthy late in the season. My confidence in Brandon Powell, Tristan Jackson, Trent Sherfield, it's great. I have a ton of confidence in Tristan Jackson particularly. I don't know how much we're going to see of him and Brandon Powell. I would assume a good amount, but we saw a ton of 2 wide receiver sets last weekend with Jefferson and Addison and Nailor. Nailor's obviously going to step into Addison's role. We'll mention it later on the show, but I'm expecting another TD from Jalen Nailor this week. I think with the attention that everyone else is drawing, he might fly under the radar for our offense this week, but confidence in Tristan Jackson is huge because Tristan Jackson's confidence in himself has never been higher. He's coming off the best camp of his career. It's a little bit shocking to me that he was inactive week 1. I think that has something to do with special teams play. They're not going to run him out there on a ton of units, but if you need him offensively, he's got the size to do it. He's got the routes to do it, and I think he's got the confidence to do it right now. So I think you get Tristan Jackson on the field a little bit if Jordan Addison doesn't play this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. I think those guys are going to be able to pick up the pieces where we need to. And just as Sam Darnold did in week 1, if he can just be the point guard of this offense and get the ball where it needs to be in a timely manner, I think that's going to be the biggest thing for him. I thought he did a great job of not pressing things. His 1 interception really wasn't his fault. Got knocked in by another offensive lineman and really just altered his throw. So
started the game 12-12.
Yeah, couldn't have asked for better. I think that's exactly what Kevin O'Connell wanted to see, and just the same thing for him is just instilling that confidence and really feeling like he can be the man. So very excited on his performance. Nick, if you had to pick a Cub Foods Captain of the Week, this guy cannot be one of the captains, but if you had to pick an honorary one from this past game, who would it be?
For me, I'm a lead by example guy. I like Blake Brandel this week because of his performance. A guy who is now seen as a full-time starter but was not before, and he gets his opportunity and he takes full advantage of it in his first game. That is going to be my captain of the week. He's not going to be a guy who's going to be outspoken, but he's a guy who's going to go in there and do his job at a high level.
And my Cub Foods Captain of the Week goes to Andrew Van Ginkel. Between him and TJ Hawkinson, I think they are vying for being the team mascot if he were to be a player. Those luscious locks really are something. He looks like Thor out there and plays like it. So to me, awesome start for him. I'm going to give him the Captain of the Week for me.
100%. I like it. And if I had to pick another one, it would be Blake Cashman because in his Minnesota debut, he's having a ton of fun. I know he's fired up to get back in U.S. Bank Stadium, play his first regular season game. He wore the green dot for the Vikings and called the defense this last Sunday, finished with 6 tackles, looked really good running sideline to sideline, and I couldn't be more thrilled to have him and Pace as our running mates in the middle there. 2 fast and physical guys that I think are going to do a good job against outside zone and in pass coverage this year. Both of them are more than capable to be every down linebackers. And this is my favorite time of the year, golf and football crossing over. The Vikes Verified podcast is sponsored by The Grint. If you're a golfer, then the Grint app is for you. Share your score with friends and make all your buddies jealous every time you sink a birdie. The Grint scores your official handicap, tracks your rounds via GPS, includes built-in games, and keeps all your golfing metrics right in one app. Even better, you'll become fluent in Grint in no time, a way to easily communicate your performance hole by hole. Download The Grint today to get the most out of your golf experience. The Grint, where golf happens. Should we get into the 49ers preview? And this is one that's obviously depending on Christian McCaffrey's health, but the latest report is that Christian McCaffrey has Achilles tendonitis. Now, This sounds like something that is going to deter him from playing this week, if you ask me. The Achilles is not something to mess with, given that it is one of the slowest recovering parts of your body. And, you know, with them being playoff hopeful, going so deep in the playoffs these last few years, they're obviously prioritizing his late season health. What do you think of the 49ers after seeing them this past week? Obviously a big win last night versus New York, but how much do things change if McCaffrey is out again?
I mean, it's always going to be a better thing for us to have McCaffrey out. I think Jordan Mason definitely showed that he can be a capable starting running back, and they obviously have the power run scheme that can fit that type of guy. So to me, you know, they're a much better team than New York Giants by far and away. They're going to be a playoff contender, and it's going to be a really good test to see where this team truly stands against the top-end talent of this league. Brock Purdy, we were able to shut him down last year. I do think being at home is a huge help for us. Having those fans behind our defense is going to really provide, I think, some obstacles for that 49ers offense. And I think it's going to really come down to can we hold Jordan Mason to a below-average game, because if they can't get the run game going, I think that this defense can provide enough pressure to really give Brock Purdy fits, just like we saw last season. So again, if we can play better run defense than the Jets, and for the vaunted defense that they're supposed to have, the Jets had 8 drives in a row where they allowed points on. So definitely some things are not lined up in New York there with the Jets and their defensive alignment. So if Brian Flores can really keep these guys gap responsible and provide some creative packages, I think that we can definitely be in this game and go down to the wire with them. I think it's going to be a great game.
I do also think it's going to be close. My concern is that it seems like whoever steps in the San Francisco 49ers backfield ends up having productive games. They just run the football with their scheme and their offensive line as the catalyst. This is one of the best offensive lines in football. It's probably them in Philadelphia at the top. And they have a rookie starting at right guard who showed out on Monday Night Football. So this is a great group up front, and you saw it with Elijah Mitchell. You saw it with Jeff Wilson Jr. They could pretty much throw anyone back there that's capable and physical, and they're going to have some room to run. So the question is, can the Vikings get to third down and make plays against these receivers? One thing I really noticed watching a lot of Shanahan's offense is all the intermediate in-breaking routes. You see a ton of 10, 15-yard digs, and they seem to hit on them all game. Deebo Samuel, Jawan Jennings, Brandon Ayuk, who's not quite up to speed after sitting out in camp, but he should be in a little bit better shape, and Trent Williams as well. But I think that we're good at defending this. You saw the game-winning pick from Cam Bynum last year on Brock Purdy. I think that we're getting that film from last night, starting that game plan, and I think that we're going to have a lot to throw at them defensively. I think that this is a defensive front and secondary that can't really be messed with and can't be overlooked, because we got a lot to throw at them, and I do think it's going to be a 1-2 score game. My biggest concern is, can we win time of possession because of how well they ran the football? I mean, Jordan Mason, that guy looked absolutely physical last night, falling forward, getting an extra 2-3 yards every time he touched a rock. They gave him 28 carries. He was just about at 150 yards. So he proved he can do it. And now the question is going to be, can the Vikings stop it?
Yeah, and like I had mentioned, I think that's the biggest thing, is really limiting that run game and forcing Brock Purdy to beat us through the air. I do think that this screams trap game for the 49ers. Coming off of a win at home, primetime, it's already a short week. Like you had mentioned, Ayuk and Williams both are kind of running into the game late with their holdouts and different things. So I think that, and then obviously the McCaffrey injury, there's a lot of outside noise and issues that they've been dealing with. For them to go and get that win on primetime is great, but for them to have to go on the road, short week with all these things going on the offensive side, I feel really good about our chances to make some noise and at least compete and open some eyes around the league, because you could see in week 1 even the performance that Sam Darnold had. I don't think anybody expected that. So very excited to see if he can replicate even something close to that this week against San Francisco.
Yeah, I think the funny thing about that is you either didn't expect this at all from Sam Darnold, or you were predicting this from Sam Darnold, because a lot of people, Dan Orlovsky especially, now talking about kind of taking the "I told you so" stance. Granted, it was the Giants. We're not going to get too far ahead of ourselves, but they have playmakers on their defense. There's no doubt about it.
Definitely.
But there's a lot of people that claimed, I knew Sam Darnold would succeed, and there's a lot of people that are like, wow, how is Sam Darnold doing this? So we need a bigger sample size from Sam, but like I said, if the confidence remains high, there's no reason why he can't play at a high level. It's how is he going to bounce back from turnovers? How is he going to control the football and just, like you said, play point guard and distribute, because we have guys to distribute to. So I want to get into our score predictions a little bit and some of our picks of the week. But first, the Vikes Verified podcast is sponsored by Dent Heads. Car lovers, if you've got dents, dings, or hail damage, listen up. Dent Heads Paintless Dent Removal is your key to a flawless ride. Why settle for less when you can have the best? With the highest ratings in Minnesota, boasting over 400 5-star Google reviews, Dent Heads delivers excellence. For simple dents, use common sense. Trust Dent Heads for your car repair needs without all the paint fuss. Visit dentheads.com to find perfection on wheels.
The Vikes Verified podcast is sponsored by Stoli Vodka. Are you looking for a smooth vodka to mix into your summer cocktails? Look no further than Stoli Vodka. Distilled with the finest European source grains, Stoli is perfect for mixing into cocktails or savoring on the rocks. With a wide range of flavors, Stoli offers something for everyone. If you're looking for a rock star drink this summer, go get yourself some Stoli and be the one that stands out at the party. Pick up a bottle of Stoli Vodka today.
Alrighty, Matt. Let's get into our game time picks of the week. Score predictions first. I am going with defensive warfare in this game. I've got the Vikings 17-14 over the Niners on a Will Reichard game-winning field goal as time expires. I just have a hard time believing that either one of these offenses is going to be able to completely light it up. There's too much firepower on both the defensive fronts. Obviously, we know about theirs. Best inside backer in the game in Fred Warner, and probably one of the best edge rushers in Nick Bosa. So these guys are going to get after us. It's going to be a test for Sam Darnold, but do not sleep on Sam Darnold passing some knowledge of the 49ers playbook over to Brian Flores and this defensive staff. This is a guy that spent the entire season with them last year, and I don't think this can be stated enough. Sam Darnold has insights on what they want to do, third and long, second and short, first and medium. It doesn't matter. Sam Darnold's going to give them insights to help us gain a competitive advantage.
And for me, I'm going to be completely honest. I did a 180 here. I originally had the score 49ers beating us 30-27. I'm going to, after talking about this game and the trap game potential that it has, I'm going to go ahead and flip that. I'm going to say Vikings come out with a 3-point win. Vikings 30, 49ers 27. We win by 3. I don't know if it'll be a walk-off or not. I know that this is going to be a 3 to 7 point game, I think, in the end. And I think that between Texans and 49ers, we have a better chance this week against the 49ers. So I'm going to go ahead and give us a slight edge. Obviously some bias in there, but let's keep the good vibes until they run out, until we get our first loss. Then we can kind of, come to reality. But for now, we got to ride high. I'm going to say that we come out with a slight win and shock the nation.
Yeah, and any of you guys looking for a player prop this weekend, I got one for you, and it's Jalen Nailor anytime TD. I don't care what the odds are, hammer it, and I'll tell you why. The 49ers are going to stack the box against us. They think that if we can stop Aaron Jones and we stop Ty Chandler, we're going to win this football game. Well, they're going to stack the box and also double Justin Jefferson because he is the best receiving threat in the entire league. That leaves who? Jalen Nailor on the other side of the football, very capable of winning in man coverage. He can beat any one of these corners on San Francisco, and he is going to be getting the least amount of attention. So look for another play drawn up, similar to last week, to free up Jalen Nailor. The Vikings did a great job using motion last week, motioning Justin Jefferson. He's the focal point to the defense. All of a sudden, Jalen Nailor is behind you for a touchdown. So Jalen Nailor, anytime TD, lock it in today.
And my game time pick of the week, I'll piggyback off you, Nick. If Jalen Nailor is going to get an anytime touchdown, I'm going to go with Sam Darnold over 1.5 passing touchdowns. He did it last week. I think he can do it again this week. I do think they're going to load the box. I think they're going to make it hard on Aaron Jones. They're going to force a guy like Darnold to beat them through the air. And I think he's going to be able to find the end zone a couple times. So if you're a betting man, go put some money on Sam Darnold over 1.5 passing touchdowns against the San Francisco 49ers.
I can already see that one coming to fruition, Matt. A little bit of news around the NFC North. We obviously saw Jordan Love's injury on Friday night in Brazil. They got a best-case scenario diagnosis, really. Based on the video, I thought this man was out for the season. Very significant pop in his knee. Looks like he could maybe even be available in the next week or two. That could all be smoke from their front office, but what is your intuition on him being available week 4 versus us?
I mean, I think it's going to be definitely in the news that he's getting ready for it, but I think if the Packers are being smart, there's no way they rush him back in 3 weeks. I know that that's a big divisional matchup, but for them to push the subject and risk a chance of him re-aggravating that or worsening that injury, I just don't think they're going to do. So, for us, I hope he gets healthy. You never want to see a guy go down, but if you had to ask me if I want to play Malik Willis or Jordan Love, it's Malik Willis all day. We're going to see Jordan Love at the end of the season regardless in Minnesota. So if we get a chance to play Malik Willis, then so be it. So I would be shocked if Jordan Love does play. And for this Vikings sake, I think that it could be in their best interest if they can catch a guy like Malik Willis and try to get off to a hot start.
Yeah, I think it's going to depend. Does Willis go 0-2 the next 2 weeks? Then it might put a little bit of urgency on the 0-3 Packers to get their franchise guy back out there. Let's talk about the Chicago Bears a little bit and Caleb Williams' highly anticipated debut. Down 17-0 to the Titans, they find a way to mount a comeback, fueled off defensive and special teams touchdowns. Caleb Williams throws for 95 yards in this game. He was underwhelming from pretty much anyone you ask. I wouldn't say he stormed this team back to a comeback win by any means. Tyreek Stevenson, pick 6 on a crazy Will Levis throw, fell to his knees, knew immediately that was a major mistake, and the Bears squeak one out versus the Titans. What do you think of that game, and do you see Chicago as a large threat? Also, Rome Odunze is week to week with an MCL sprain.
Yeah, Keenan Allen nursed an ankle injury, Rome Odunze MCL sprain. That wide receiver room is definitely thinning out quick. Obviously, you see a guy in Caleb Williams run into some rookie hurdles, was under 100 yards passing, was a lot of short routes, intermediate stuff, didn't really have a lot of challenging stuff in the playbook for him this first week. So for me, obviously, I was hoping the Titans could come out with a win with the Bears putting up really no offense to speak of. But again, Will Levis gives them an absolute miracle ball, throws something up, and I don't know what he was thinking, but the meme of him holding his head is, I think, spot on.
Yep.
Again, just a tough loss for the Titans, and one I really was hoping that they could come out with. But speaks to that Chicago defense. I do think that they have some real ball players on that side of the ball, and our matchups against them are going to be super fun. Just between both of our defenses, and then you got, bringing Caleb Williams and Sam Darnold. Just a lot of fireworks between the two. But again, was just hoping that Tennessee could squeak that one out. But somehow, some way, Will Levis gave them the win.
Yep, and then looking at the Detroit Lions, they pretty much are who we expected. Riding the coattails of that dominant rushing attack, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs look great. Amon-Ra St. Brown was quiet in this game, but Jared Goff was fairly efficient. They take care of the Rams, and a surprise performance from Jameson Williams. If they get Jameson Williams going like he did in this first game, that is going to be dangerous because he is the guy that stretches the field for them. Amon-Ra is very much a possession receiver. He's not going to get you a ton of 25-plus yard gains, but he's going to catch every dig and speed out that you throw at him. Jameson Williams is the speed threat, and this guy got going in week 1. So can the Vikings find a way to limit the big plays, which is a new dynamic in the Detroit offense with Jameson Williams?
Yeah. This division is deep. I really think, we're going to have some real tough games between all three of those teams. But again, very excited with our week 1 performance. I think we've got a lot of confidence and momentum leading into this home opener. The bank's going to be packed. It's going to be rocking. This defense should be flying around. If Darnold can do what he did this last week and just move the ball to where it needs to be and be timely and not turn the ball over, I think that we're going to be right in it with a chance to win.
You're absolutely right. Best time of the year, home opener on the horizon. Let's go into this game confidently, carry some swagger. There's going to be a ton of 49ers fans in the bank this weekend. Unfortunately, they travel among the league's best, honestly, in terms of fans. So stay confident. This is episode 94 of the Vikes Verified podcast. Thank you for tuning in, and we are fired up to bring this coverage all season long.
Skol.
Skol Vikes. You're listening to the Vikes Verified podcast.